Alright, this is the Ar15 $1 trigger job. Alright, there's really only two contact points you need to polish to get a good trigger pull on an Ar15. Right here on the front face of the trigger, and right here on the notch of the hammer. That's it. Really polishing the top face of the trigger, polishing the disconnect release on the hammer. That's going to give you an easier let off, a smoother let off, but that really doesn't matter for trigger pull. Keep in mind that you're always going to have pressure against this trigger face with the hammer. The hammer is always going to be a lot of tension because of the hammer spring against that trigger face. So you don't want to remove any material off this trigger face or off this hammer notch, because if you remove material, these are cast and they're surface hardened. The steel isn't hardened all the way through, it's just surface hardened. So if you take a file or sandpaper and you remove material off this face, you're actually making it weaker. You're going to make it wear faster, you're going to make it turn grittier faster, and your nice smooth trigger pull isn't even going to last 1,000 or 2,000 rounds. So I'm going to show you guys here what you need. You need a dollar bill. The older the dollar bill, the better. The more beat up and wrinkly it is, the better. If you don't have a crappy dollar bill laying around, throw it in your jean pocket, wash it, run it through the dryer, and then it should be good to go. You need a couple buffing wheels for your Dremel. I like to use these two sizes right here, the small drum size and then the large disc. And then you need your rouge. The yellow rouge here, this is for stainless steel. If your trigger is maybe a MIM trigger or a shitty mil-spec trigger, you're probably going to want to use this yellow rouge first, followed by the white rouge. If you have a quality trigger, like this one's from Carry Guns, this one's already polished pretty nicely, so I'm just going to use the white rouge. You can buy this rouge at Home Depot in a Ryobi kit. A Ryobi polishing and cleaning compound kit is what I believe it is, but there's several different brands of rouge. And then of course you need a decent Dremel. This is the Dremel 3000. This one reaches speeds of 10,000 RPMs, and that's what I like to use to get it nice and hot, and I'll show you why here in a minute. So basically I'm just going to give you a rundown on how an Ar15 trigger works. So there's always tension on this trigger pushing up. The front face is always pushing up because of the hammer spring. Because of the trigger spring. The hammer spring's always going to want to be pushing forward like this, so there's always tension against this front face of the trigger. You pull the trigger down, the hammer follows through, hits the firing pin, bolt cycles, comes down, hits this disconnect, locks on the disconnect, and this happens so fast that before you have time to even let off the trigger, this is going to happen. Locks on the disconnect. There's always a force pushing up on the trigger because of the trigger spring, so when you let off the trigger, the disconnect will disengage and then the front face will set on the hammer notch. So that's basically the rundown on how this works, and we will go through this right now. So you don't want your springs or disconnect or anything like that installed when you do this. So what we'll do is I'll move some of the stuff out of the way. I already have a small buffing wheel I'm currently using on my Dremel, so I'll put this one back so you can tell how much I've used this one, what it looks like. I run this on a rag after I'm done, because when it burnishes this wheel it turns nice and hard, and loosen that back up, you just turn it on high speed and wrap a rag kind of around it, and and clean that wheel off. This is a brand new large wheel because I go through these ones pretty fast. And these Dremel buffing wheels you can get like at Walmart in the tools section if you don't already have one. So what I'll do is I'll start with the trigger here, is what I'll usually do first. My white rouge. I turn the Dremel on. I'll turn it kind of on a low speed and I'll set it into this white rouge. And I really just kind of work this white rouge in and embed it into this wheel. And you want to wear eye protection while doing this because it will spit some stuff out. And once this gets filled with rouge, it won't collect it anymore. It'll really just start spitting it out. And you'll get the little flakes all over your hands. So I'll embed it into that wheel. Then I'll take the white rouge and I'll even wipe some on the front of this trigger. Just kind of grind it in there. Just like this. Remember, you don't want to remove any material off this trigger. And if you do, this trick will work. If you have to, if you want to change the geometry of the trigger because you want a shorter pull or whatever your reasoning is, you can use this trick to surface harden the trigger, but it's not going to be a permanent surface hardening. It might last 5,000 rounds and then you'll have to reburnish it. So not that big of a deal, but basically I usually don't like to take any material off. I'm just going for a nice smooth polish here is really all I'm going for. So what I want to do is I want to go in a direction like this, the same way that the hammer moves off this face of the trigger. That's which way I want to polish. I don't want to sit here and work it back and forth sideways like this. Longitude ground. So we're going to go in this direction with this trigger, and I'll turn this wheel on, and I sit here, I start polishing it, and I turn up this speed, and I'm going to get it going fast, and you'll get some of the parkerizing on this wheel. And you want to get it up to high speed, and you're going to heat this up really hot. I don't know if you can tell that. Okay. Now it's already getting so hot down here that it's kind of uncomfortable to hold it. Now I'm not done yet. That's just the first coating. So what I'll do is I'll wipe it off on my towel here. And I don't know how good this is going to come in my camera. You see that mirror polish? Now you can use like the mother of pearl and toothpaste, and there's 1,000 different ways to do it, but I really like this rouge. I found that it works best. I've tried the mothers of pearl toothpaste. I've tried all sorts of different things. So what I'll do is I'll run this on my towel, clean off this wheel a little bit. Now I'll go back to my rouge. Now this time I'm going to go full bore, and I'm not going to stop until where I'm pinching the trigger right below the ears here, to where it's so hot that I can't hold it anymore. That's when I know when to stop. Full speed. And at the top of this trigger face here, that's where I really want to kind of concentrate on. Just like that. It's so hot now that I really don't want to hold it. I want to let go of it. So Now what this does is this burnishes the face of the trigger. I doubt my camera's picking up how glossy that is. I can like pretty much see myself in the face of this trigger, believe it or not. This is just absolutely just polished to the max. Now you can do the top up here, but this face of the trigger really doesn't do a whole lot for you. I mean, when this hammer locks up, it's this front face that does all the work for that smooth pull. When you drop that down and it slides against this face. So this notch right here. But I'll go ahead and do this top too while I'm at it. It doesn't hurt. And you don't got to get this whole area, just the very tip right here. And sometimes if you drag your fingernail, you'll feel a little, from where these are cut, you'll feel a little ledge right here. I already took that ledge off by burnishing the front right here, just with this fine wheel. But I'll go ahead, run this back on my towel. Clean my wheel up a little bit, and you kind of see how fast it eats up these wheels. That's okay. They're not very much money. I'll put a little bit more white rouge on it. Now, I don't got to do this whole thing. Just the tip over here closer to the face is really all I'm going for. You don't want to round that edge or anything. This really isn't taking off any metal, it's burnishing it. Now burnishing actually hardens the surface of this steel and it makes it slick. And there's a thing called HCF and LCF, which is high cyclic rate fatigue and low cyclic rate fatigue. And what burnishing does in a lot of aircraft parts, aircraft engines, high performance parts, they'll burnish the steel, because what that does, I'll see if I can, you can kind of see where I polished this to tip here, how much shinier it is compared to what it was before, what it is down here, what it came from the factory. And this was already a nicely polished mil-spec trigger compared to a lot of others. So I hope my camera's picking that up, the difference there. And I only spent just a couple seconds on this top here. But this front surface is just beautiful. So this is pretty much done. That's all I do. You can spend a little bit more time on them, but that's it. That's all I do with the Dremel on this. So I'll put this down. And now what we'll do is I'll change this bit out. Unscrew that wheel. I'll screw in the large wheel here on my arbor and put this in. And remember, wear eyeglasses while doing this, because it can really sling this rouge off. Now this is a brand new wheel, so I kind of really want to embed this, and I start at a low speed. I just try and get this rouge. And remember when I said when it starts flinging this rouge all around, that's when you know it's kind of full. It's kind of soaked up all that it's going to want to. So now what I do with this, why I like the large wheel, is this large wheel fits in here really nice. And it's this bottom edge of this hammer notch is where you really want to concentrate here. So and this will do both sides at the same time of that hammer notch. You want to get it so hot where you can't hold it by these ears. halfway through, add a little bit more rouge, turn it back on high speed. And this thing is hot. You cannot hold it by these hammer ears. And I'll take my towel, I'll wipe it off. Now, just for giggles, I don't always do this because it's really not important to me. But what we can do here is we'll add a little bit more. We'll clean this parkerizing off my wheel. Just grind it here on the towel. Turn it down on a lower speed. Let it soak up some more of this rouge. Now we'll do this face. This is the face that actually slams on the top of the disconnect. Don't worry about that wheel turning black. That's just the parkerizing. And that's it. That thing's hot. That says I'm hot. Oh yeah, look at that mirror polish there. Now what I'll do is I'll just add this a tiny little bit more rouge, and I'll go on the inside for the disconnect let off right inside here. And that's why I like the large wheel, is because I can come down on the rouge like this and get it on the underside here. And then I can take this large wheel and go inside. And come over here and do the other side. And then I can drop right down into the middle. See that with the large wheel, how it fits right inside there? Just perfect. And that's it. And I don't really work on this, on the disconnect let off, too much. I don't sit there and do it as well as I do the hammer notch or the front face of that trigger. And take your towel or your rag, wipe it all off. And then look how shiny and beautiful that is. Right? You know, I doubt, you see that shine? I mean, it is just beautiful. And on this, I don't worry about, going at a certain, going longitude, doing a longitude ground like I do the front face of the trigger or on the hammer notch, because it's really hard to get in there have something small enough to go that direction. Just on the front face of the trigger, I worry about that. But this will give you a nice smooth let off. And then I'll grab the disconnect here. Now on the disconnect, you can do the top face of the disconnect right here, which when the hammer comes down, it'll hit this top face of the disconnect, push it down, and then it'll come and lock. So this little front face here, and I don't spend much time on this at all. I really don't. So I'll get a little bit of rouge. One of the reasons why I don't like to go overboard on anything to do with the disconnect is because if you fuck up the disconnect, that's where you can get hammer follow, get a runaway gun, stuff like that. So I'll just get a little bit more rouge in here, and I don't even go full speed. I'm not trying to burnish this surface at all. I'll just sit here and I'll basically take that parkerizing off and just kind of mirror it up a little bit, but I really don't spend too much time. That's it. And then underneath here, I'll take my Dremel, go back underneath here, put the rouge on the bottom of that disc, so it's not on the side. It's actually putting the rouge on the bottom. And this is one of the reasons why I like the rouge, whereas when you put the mother of pearl on here, polish or any other type of polish on the actual object, and you sit here and you put the wheel on it, it tends to fling it off before it really soaks into the wheel. And then you're just using the wheel to polish with. So then I'll come underneath, whereas the rouge will actually soak into this pad and actually last a little longer. So I'll come underneath, and just this very little ledge right here of the disconnect, I'll stick it right there underneath, work it back and forth a little bit. I don't really worry about burnishing these contact points. I'm just removing the parkerizing and giving it a little bit of a mirror polish here. I don't know how well that's showing up on my camera. And that's it. Wipe it off. Sometimes it's hard to tell how well you have it polished until you wipe it off. And oh yeah, that's nice. Probably can't see that one as well, but it's nice. So and that's basically it. That's all I'll do for the disconnect, and I rarely do that, especially on a home defense gun or something like that. I don't even touch the disconnect. For a DMR or SPR, a precision build, then I will, you know, to get that little bit lighter let off and everything. Alright, so we have this hammer polished here. See that? We have the front face of this trigger polished. If you can see that. Now, here comes the $1 trigger job part. What I'll do is I'll take my dollar bill. Okay, it doesn't matter what side you use. Now the reason why I use a dollar bill is because even 2,000 grit sandpaper, 1,500 grit, 2,500 grit sandpaper, whatever, it's coarse. I mean that's what it's supposed to do. It has granules in it, and it's made to remove material and metal. And that's what I don't want to do. I don't want to remove material or metal, because that'll soften these metals, because again they are just surface hardened. So the more material you remove off of this metal, the more you soften it. And the more you soften it, the faster it'll wear, the faster it'll get dirty, the faster it'll collect dirt, and that's not what you want. A dollar bill isn't paper, it's actually a fiber. So they're extremely low grit, and it's not going to remove any material. It's not going to remove any metal. It's just a final polish. So what I'll do is I'll take my dollar bill, set it on a flat surface, and I'll sit here and just rub this trigger. And make sure I like to go in the same direction that the hammer trips off the trigger, not side to side, but in this direction. And I'll just rub on this dollar bill for this polish. And I'll do this while I'm watching TV, and I'll literally do this on the front of this trigger for about 10 minutes. Now you can use like a hard Arkansas stone. I use those on my 1911, stuff like that, but I always follow it up with the dollar bill. This is not somewhere you're going to see this very often. You know, but it really works. It's actually better than the hardest, finest hard Arkansas stone you're going to find. This trick right here, I guarantee it. You're going to get a finer, smoother surface. Now, a lot of people think that the reason why you want such a smooth surface is for less friction and an easier pull, which is true. But another reason why you want this is because this is going to make the surface smooth, and the smoother the surface you have, the less it gets dirty, collects dirt. The less it collects dirt, the less it wears. any kind of imperfections, lines from sandpaper, even really fine grit sandpaper, I mean I'm talking like almost microscopic lines, it'll collect dirt and crud, and that dirt and crud, gunpowder residue, carbon, that'll actually make the surface wear faster and of course be grittier. The smoother it is, the cleaner it'll stay. The cleaner it'll actually help self clean itself. So I'll just sit here while I'm watching TV and I'll just rub the surface on this dollar bill, and I might give it a couple hundred strokes. I literally might spend 5 minutes just doing this on this surface. It sounds like a lot of time and a lot of hassle, but trust me, it's well worth it. And then after that, you can come over on the top of here, rub this surface just with your thumb, you know, and spend several minutes on this surface here, but it's really just this front edge you're going for. Same thing here inside this trigger notch. You just roll up, or inside the hammer notch, I mean, you roll up your dollar bill and you sit here and you just drag it back and forth just like this, and spend a good 5 minutes just on this notch of the hammer. And usually the dollar bill inside here will do both surfaces at the same time, especially if you fold it and roll it upright. So it'll do both surfaces at the same time. Same thing up here on the disconnect, where the disconnect catches. Just rub this dollar bill around. You don't got to worry about doing the longitude grind up here. Just rub this dollar bill around. Any little tiny imperfections that polish missed, this will take care of, and this will give you a smoother polish. I don't know if you can already tell, but just by rubbing it, it's actually even shinier now just from rubbing this for 10 seconds. Now you can just imagine if I actually spent several minutes on camera doing this, which I'm not going to because I don't want this video to be an hour long, but you'll be able to tell a difference with this dollar bill. And then same thing on the inside here, and again, you don't got to do this. This is just for the disconnect. This isn't going to do anything for the actual trigger pull. And actually just rub it in here. You don't got to put a lot of pressure. You don't have to sit there and press real hard. You're not trying to sand it with it. You're just polishing it. I mean, think of it as like kind of like waxing your car or something. The dollar bill and this fibrous material, it'll do the work for you. So I'll spend a couple minutes doing here. Same thing on the top of the disconnect. You know, on this surface, actually, you can actually go down. On any surface you can actually press down on. I'll usually set the dollar bill down, and then I'll just rub it back and forth like this. And then on the inside of here, that's when I'll pick up the dollar bill, run it back and forth by hand, and I'll do this for several minutes. I usually don't spend too much time. I'm more worried about this trigger face and the hammer notch. That's what I'm mostly worried about. Just what I've already done to the disconnect and to the disconnect notch is plenty. I mean, this is going to have a real nice let off, nice smooth let off. But that's basically how to do a $1 trigger job on an AR-15, and this usually gives me, depending on the springs of course, but the average mil-spec springs I get in the lower parts kits I buy, this usually gives me a sub 5 pound pull. On some ARs that especially some of my precision and hunting ARs that I've spent a lot of extra time doing this, and I've done it really precisely and carefully, I've gotten a 3.5 pound pull with mil-spec springs. No JP springs, nothing special. Straight up mil-spec kit, I've been able to achieve a 3.5 to 4 pound pull. You know, but I spent extra time on that one. The average ones, if I was to actually install this in a lower right now, from just what I've done so far, I should be getting right about a 5 pound pull. With no special springs, nothing. Now you add in some JP springs, you'll easily have a 3.5 pound pull. Easily. But just what I've done right here, I should have about a 4.5 to 5 pound pull is what I've found on average. I've done this to Not just one or two. I've literally done this to over 20 different trigger groups, this exact method right here. And every time it's just turned out beautiful trigger, beautiful trigger. Some of these I've done have turned out better than a lot of drop-in triggers I own. I own Black Rain Ordnance, Rise Armament, No Name Brand Company, or No Name Company, and some of these mil-spec trigger groups I've done have actually turned out better than those drop-in triggers that you pay $100 or $200 for. Now I do have a Timney drop-in trigger that I absolutely just love, mainly because of the short pull and reset. Maybe I'll do another video on how to actually change the geometry of your trigger to get that short pull and the shorter reset, if anyone's actually interested in that. But that takes a little bit more advanced gunsmithing skills. But just sit here, rub on my dollar bill, and I don't know how well this is going to show up on camera, how actually smooth and polished this is. See if I can get a focus here. But this is extremely polished. You can see the lines in it still from the manufacturing process. That's actually just from the metal itself, from the way this trigger was cast. If you could see this trigger in person and you could actually feel it in person with your fingertip, it feels like you're running your finger across a piece of glass, you know, and that's how you want it to feel. Like, you want it to be as smooth as a piece of glass. Like when they say a trigger breaks like glass, well, for a trigger to break like glass, it has to be as smooth as glass. But that's basically the $1 trigger job on an AR-15, and yeah, it does cost a little bit more than $1 because you need a couple buffing wheels and some rouge. I think this rouge at Home Depot is like $7. Comes with 3 sticks, a black, a yellow, and a white. And the yellow's for coarse, the black's for coarse, yellow's medium, white's for fine. And usually on a quality kit, you can just go straight to the white. If you got some kit that you really notice some imperfections, some manufacturing line, something, you may want to start with the yellow and then move to the white. But yeah, that's it. If you have any questions, let me know. I hope I covered everything. It's kind of late at night for me. I'm getting ready to go to bed, so I hope I didn't forget anything. But yeah, that's your $1 trigger job on an AR-15. Thanks for listening to me beat a dead horse. I know that this has been covered before by other people. You know, there's 1,000 different ways to do a trigger job. This is the way that I have been actually taught, and I guarantee you're not going to see the dollar bill trick, the $1 trigger job, anywhere else. Have a good day. Alright guys, I have my trigger and hammer installed from doing this polish, and I got my trigger scale here. So we will put this on, and I'm going to give it a pull, and I am pulling at right about 4.2 pounds, which is actually a little better than I thought I would. I didn't think I actually spent that much time on this one because I was just trying to do a quick video. So we'll give it another pull here, right at 4.3 pounds. See if I can actually get it on camera here. 4. If you can see that, like 4.2 pounds. Do it one more time. 4.2 pounds. 4.3 pounds, right about there. So just barely over 4 pounds. And if you actually spend, I didn't spend any more time on this trigger than what you saw in the video. If you actually sit down and do the dollar bill trick like I showed you for 15-20 minutes, you can actually get this down to 3.5 pounds. And the good thing about doing the polish like this is I still have a full power hammer spring and a full power trigger spring. No JP springs. I don't have to worry about light primer strikes. These are full power mil spec springs. And if you're curious about what lower parts kit I was using, I'm using a KG, a Carry's Guns Ar15 lower parts kit, which is just a good quality mil spec kit. Nothing fancy, but nothing poor quality either. But even on a more poor, cheaper quality lower parts kit, the same polish works. The same $1 trigger job works. So I just wanted to show you guys what to expect after doing it the way I showed you here. That's the Ar15 $1 trigger job. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for listening to me beat another dead horse. I'm out. Alright, after filming the video, and then after I installed the kit and I showed you guys the 4.3 pound trigger pull, I kind of thought, well, maybe you guys would like to actually see what the reset and the pull actually looks like, just so you have an idea, because it does kind of shorten the pull just a hair, makes it a little bit more crisp, but and the reset's a little better. So I just thought I'd try and catch this on camera here. So I don't know how well this is going to show up, so I'm going to try my best here to show you guys. But here's my trigger. I'm going to try and hold it as still as possible. Okay, that was my pull. Then there's on the disconnect, this is my reset. See how short that is? Here's my pull again. Here is the reset. Pull. Reset. So not bad. I just thought I'd throw that in there in case anyone was interested on what the pull and the reset actually look like. So again, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you enjoyed it, Dano. And again, the $1 Ar15 trigger job. Sorry for the editing of the last couple spots. I'm not a professional YouTuber or anything, but I just want to kind of throw out some good information there. Hopefully one day I'll get better at this editing and stuff, and I can actually make some decent quality videos. But again, thanks for listening to me beat a dead horse.